That the ads are needed. That's a source of revenue for us here. All right, Barrister, very, very quickly. You know, I talked about el-Rufai, where the ICPC is accusing el-Rufai of breaching medical visit and arresting his personal doctor. So obviously, they're saying that el-Rufai violated the conditions of a court-approved medical visit while in the commission's custody. They also announced the arrest of el-Rufai's personal physician, Professor Bello Abubakar, for allegedly making false statements. So, in a statement by the spokesperson of the head of media and public communications, Mr. John Ode, the ICPC, the commission, is saying that it had facilitated el-Rufai's medical visit in compliance with a court directive and a statutory obligation to respect the rights and welfare of persons in the custody. They disclosed that the Kaduna State High Court fixed July 6, 7, and 8, 2026 for the accelerated hearing of criminal charges against the former governor, but that he failed to appear on the first day of the proceedings. The prosecution team informed the court that when officers arrived to convey el-Rufai to court, he declined to accompany them, insisting on seeing his personal doctor. So they're now saying that, okay, in that regard, why are you seeing your personal doctor? Because they had not informed the court and there was no prior requests that had been made to the commission for such a medical consultation. And that when asked by the commission's medical doctor, el-Rufai, who is the defendant, reportedly indicated that he had no immediate medical complaints, but stated that his wife, Aisha el-Rufai, who is also one of his legal counsel, had requested that he see his personal physician, Professor Bello Abubakar. Then the commission said the court subsequently adjourned the matter. So in this particular case, how is it el-Rufai's fault for not appearing in court? And secondly, Barrister, can you explain the previous bail condition that was given to el-Rufai by the court when they knew that no civil servant could actually acquire or have any of the recommendations required to facilitate el-Rufai's bail condition?
Thank you very much. The attendance of an accused person or a defendant is not compulsory for the continuing of his trial. If for whatever reason he may not be able to attend, nothing stops the court from moving on and continuing with the prosecution. So the whole idea is that this is not a prosecution. This is a persecution. PER, persecution.
Persecution?
Yes.
The ICPC is claiming that they later saw a post on el-Rufai's Facebook page, photographs of el-Rufai meeting with political associates like Isa Ashiru Kudan, showing the former governor with several visitors, including Professor Abubakar, during the period designated for the medical consultation. And that was why they arrested the doctor for breach.
Good. I mean, you now ask yourself, who gave the ICPC power to arrest? I mean, over a bail condition. Did the court order the arrest of the doctor? So in haste to persecute a man, these characters do all sorts. They are becoming desperate, and I assure you, they will get more desperate with time. They are making more and more errors. What is wrong with the man who you are persecuting to have visitors? Is he in solitary confinement? Is he not being charged for offenses that you are dealing with in open court? So I mean that's all the prerequisites of a persecution is self-evident in this case. I'm not trying to stand for el-Rufai's case because I'm not one of his attorneys, but the reality is this: he is simply being persecuted for his stance, for his position against the Tinubu regime, and the ICPC is simply being used as a conduit for that. Perhaps after this my comment now, they will now say, okay, they want to come and arrest Ezeluche for his comment. But that is not the issue. I mean, they will need to build enough prison for all Nigerians. Because the way this government is going, Nigeria is already one huge prison, which, I mean, the whole 120 million prisoners under the guise of this Mr. regime. And we have to put a stop to this. And it's so sad that the man whom Mr. Bola Tinubu relied upon so much when he's coming in has now turned on them. And I hope this will be a lesson to all these politicians that yes, you think you will go along, you think you will eat along with the system, but when they find you when they can dispense with you, they will do that without stress. And I hope that this will not engender Nigerians to ensure that when we see the wrongs, we keep on saying that this is wrong and say without any qualms, and nothing will happen. Because whatever this Mr. Bola Tinubu has around him, there can be more than maybe 200,000-300,000. against 220 million Nigerians? They can't go that far. That's the reality. Thank you.
Paris, I remember before we got into the situation of el-Rufai and Prince Adeyemi, when we talked about the judge that sat on the tribunal in 2023, who supposedly or allegedly passed due to heart failure. And I talked about how Nigerians don't trust the judicial system and the different court judgments given that doesn't seem to be logical. They're actually quite ambiguous in some instances, and political interference in some of the court judgments, which are obviously influenced by top politicians. Now, the bail conditions that were set or given to el-Rufai to enable his release was a 100 million naira bail bond, all right? And that the person who would be able to ensure that 100 million naira bail bond must be a federal civil servant of grade level 17 or higher, who must provide salary statements, an affidavit of means, a recent passport photograph, and a verification letter from their immediate department. Also, a letter of attestation from the chairman of the Kaduna State Traditional Council. All valid international passports must be deposited with the court and must report to the DSS headquarters on the last Friday of every month by 10 a.m. Barrister, this is a bail condition given by the court to el-Rufai. What civil servant of grade 11 or above can afford or have 100 million naira in their account? That's one. Two, what federal civil servant of that level that they disclosed can be able to acquire such an amount of money? And if there was a civil servant that could actually provide what was required, shouldn't that federal civil servant be arrested? So if the court did not want to give el-Rufai any bail, why bring up something they knew was impossible to meet?
That is why clearly this is a persecution. The so-called bail conditions amount to not giving bail for a bailable offense. And then what I would have expected these lawyers of this el-Rufai to do was to escalate the issue, appeal against it.
They did.
Yes. I mean, this is not a bail. This is not bail. This is not giving bail, basically. Because any civil servant who meets the criteria set by his judge should be in prison. And that means that none of them will, though they have it, because most of them are the ones who are paying all these billions, but they will not show up and say they want to stand bail. And like one other thing that was in that condition was that the head of the unit, who is most likely a political appointee of the presidency, should sign on. Then how will such a person sign on? So the reality is this: Mr. el-Rufai was denied bail for a bailable offense, and his lawyers should have escalated it to the international community. So it's high time the world begins to know that what we have in Nigeria is not a democracy. I mean, what we have is a theocracy, a government of our worst elements ruling over us, messing up a very dynamic and brilliant country. We have to put a stop to it. I mean, there is no. It's sad that this happened, but we only expect that more of this will happen, because this government of Mr. Bola Tinubu will get more desperate. They will want to find more ways to make sure that they stay in power, even when the people have rejected them and the elements have rejected them. But Nigerians must remain steadfast and ensure that we don't continue our suffering for longer than necessary. Thank you.
Well, the president has eventually ordered the ICPC to investigate the PFIPC, and they're demanding a report in 30 days. This has to do with Adeniyi. This was obviously disclosed via the presidential spokesperson, Tinubu's special advisor on information and strategy, Mr. Bayo Nanaga. So doesn't this contradict the earlier statement written by Bayo Nanaga, where he said that everything was fake? What happened was an indictment, and that politicians should not look into this. Bayo Nanaga quickly released that statement. Now, the same Bayo Nanaga is releasing an information from the presidency directing the ICPC to investigate that agency. So, how do we believe any press statements or any reaction or information that comes out from Bayo Nanaga? Is it possible to conclude that the initial release from Bayo Nanaga was not from the presidency? It was Bayo Nanaga trying to cover up for his friend, Mr. Bajabiamila?
Look, let us stop calling all these mean minors, whether Bayo Nanaga, Bajabiamila, or the central bank, the Senate president. The buck stops on Mr. President's table. Mr. Mr. Bola.
No, but we know. The thing is, Barrister Eze,
Yes.
there is a
Yes.
problem. And it's not looking well. There is a system to doing things. It's like the system is being corroded and it's too much. When something becomes too much, no matter how laid back Nigerians are, it's disturbing of the process. It's really disturbing, Barrister. Something as egregious as this came out. And instead of the presidency to have kept quiet and notified the presidency, and maybe the initial statement is what is being released today. But a Mr. Bayo Onanuga who knows that any statement that he writes out obviously translates to coming from the president, released a statement and saying that the stories should be dispelled and that everything is still in court. You are now releasing after almost a week because people were asking questions and interrogating what is going on, that the presidency is saying it should be investigated by the ICPC within 30 days. So who ordered the initial response of Mr. Bayo Onanuga?
My dear, every day there are two key people that Mr. President Bola Tinubu meets with every day of the year. One is his chief of staff, Femi Gbadagba, and second is Bayo Onanuga. Every day. So what they say, what they do is exactly what Mr. President has ordered. So please stop calling these minors because somebody elected them. Mr. Bayo Onanuga does not owe you a dime. Femi Gbadagba does not owe Nigerians a dime. The person who claims we elected him is Mr. Bola Tinubu. And that is why every blame should be directed at him. Because even if he sacks Gbadagba tomorrow, even if he sacks Onanuga tomorrow, that does not address the systemic fraud which has been exposed. The dog stabs on Mr. Tinubu's table. The person that should be resigning is Tinubu, not all these rascals, not all these police. Because they can always talk whatever, like, okay, now he has changed his stance. So should we not forget what we said before? No. The reality is this. Every day, these characters, not even the minister, not even the CBN governor, the two people who meet Mr. President every day in any pretense at democracy is the chief of staff and his special press assistant. So they relate what Mr. Tinubu says. And all these gymnastics, all these grammatical blunders or changes they are making is of no essence. Now, the presidency has realized that Nigerians are no longer believing in what he's talking about. Nigerians are seen to his scam. So they will keep on prevaricating and changing stories, but we should remain steadfast. The reality is this. The fraud has been exposed that cuts across all segments of the government, from the presidency to the National Assembly to the law enforcement agencies to even the budgetary allocations, and that means everything is networked in the office of Bola Tinubu. So please do not blame me. This man gets his salary, he gets maybe 1 or 2 pecks. I mean, I'm talking about Onanuga. And likewise, he gets 1 or 2 extra cars. He buys 1 or 2 more houses in the UK, whatever. My dear, Nigerians realize that the mastermind of all this, the person who is in charge, who is responsible, who takes care, who gives orders to even the IG of police, to the director of DSS, to all these agencies, it's only one person. That is Mr. Bola Tinubu. That is the person who should be focused on. That is the person who should be resigning based on this mega fraud and no other person. I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow Onanuga will start working for the next president and he begins to talk damaging things about the new president. We should learn how to place our blame. The blame relies only on one person, and that is the person of Mr. Bola Tinubu. Thank you very much.
Barrister Uche, finally, before I let you go, let's look at what's going the xenophobic attack in South Africa. Today, Senator Ningi was angry at his colleagues and said that the only thing they know how to do is just talk, and no action. Now, we know that some Nigerians were murdered, due to the xenophobic attacks and the call that Nigerians should leave or their foreigners should leave the country. The South African government were asked to compensate for a lot of properties that had been left behind by Nigerians, and investment actually left behind by Nigerians. One of the ministers of South Africa came out to say that everything belongs to them and that anything they do the building, the goods, whatever it is they have belongs to, South Africans. That what they're more interested is for Nigerians to show them their drug den, which was actually quite derogatory of the remark from the minister. And she actually reiterated that she said what she said. Now, Barrister, here is the thing. It's South Africa speaking to the Nigerian government in such a manner. It got so bad that the South African people were calling and abusing the president. They called him a drug lord. They called him a criminal. And they're saying that's why the Nigerian people are refusing to leave their country because of the criminal system that we operate. And she verbally made that statement as well on a national podium. Okay, now the House of Assembly and the Senate had really not given a thought to what was going on in South Africa, even talking about having to close down MTN and other companies owned by South Africa in Nigeria. But since then, we did not hear the Senate make any form of discussion concerning it up until today. Senator Ningi was angry and berated his colleagues that all they do is talk and there is no action whatsoever from the Senate. What's your reaction to this?
Thank you very much. God bless Senator Ningi for his outspokenness. Now, what they expect from a gospel Akpabio who has no business being in the Senate, talk less of being the president of the Senate, because he shouldn't be there in the first place. He knows he has no business in the Senate. Now, one would have expected in all this that the South African High Commission in Nigeria would have been summoned to the Foreign Affairs Ministry and even expelled to ensure that Nigerians are over there. But no, this is totally detached government. They're not even bothered because they know the Bola Tinubu regime knows he owes Nigerians nothing. He knows he did not become a president by the virtue of Nigerian vote. So he does not give a damn what happens to Nigeria. And he doesn't give a damn on the way he's looked upon by the international community. Because he thinks that what his antecedent is hidden. But it's not. The world is aware that this man, Bola Tinubu, paid or forfeited $460,000 for drug trafficking and money laundering related offenses to the U.S. government. So what do you expect him to do? The other thing is that we are still with these characters as our rulers. And Nigerians must come together and do whatever is needful to ensure that this nonsense does not continue for a day longer. Because otherwise, every Nigerian anywhere is at risk. Today is Nigeria in South Africa. Tomorrow, it will be Nigerians elsewhere. We have no government that will go and protect our people because they know the characters of those who are ruling us. They know that the people who are ruling us are below par. They know that our president has his own defects. They know his chief of staff has his own defects. They know that before they became Senate president and all that stuff, people like Akpabio were facing serious corruption charges that were dropped because they were members of the APC. So you don't blame them when they treat Nigerians as criminals. You don't blame even in Ghana, Togo, other countries where Nigerians have diminished existence. And that is because of the characters who we have allowed to rule over us. So I mean, for us to move ahead, we have to decide as a country that we cannot tolerate these characters in government. Yes, they may think they have all the forces, but what I want Nigerians to realize is this. Mr. President might have appointed the IG of police, the chief of army staff, but he has not appointed all the policemen. He has not appointed all the soldiers, and they're also Nigerians and they're passing through Spain. So Nigerians must really come together and put a stop to this nonsense that has diminished us, belittled, and has making Nigerians at risk. Other countries are reacting. In Mozambique, there's a video going viral where South Africans have been pursued from Mozambique.
Yes.
Why are they allowed to continue to mess up in Nigeria? Because we don't have a government. Or we have a government that does not feel that they owe Nigerians anything. And there must be a stop to all this noise. Tomorrow, the Mr. President will come out and he has kept quiet. Like I keep on telling Nigerians, what I know will happen is that in a very short while, in the next 1 week or thereabouts, there will be a mega crisis. There will be a mega abduction of children in school that they will try to shift attention. But Nigerians must hold these characters responsible because they are part of the problem. They are the problem itself. And we cannot continue this way. Thank you very much.
Barrister, it's quite unfortunate. We even heard that Ramaphosa was supposed to meet with the Ghanaian president. That was postponed because of the attacks. All right. I mean, the Ghanaian president refused to meet, Cyril Ramaphosa. Also, we heard Adams Oshomole calling for the seizure of the properties of South Africans here in Nigeria because of what is currently going on in South Africa. But sometimes statements are made, but there is no actionable implementation to that, which is what Senator Ningi was saying, that all we do is talk and talk, but the House does not perform anything, no action. And there are calls to see Nigeria's over-reliance on some of these foreign company owners, because in instances like this, you look at the fallout and how it will affect Nigeria's telecommunication sector, being the fact that we rely on MTN for our communication. We have not tried to see how we could expand more by owning our telecommunication companies operated by Nigerians themselves to avoid privileges like this. Barrister, very quickly, the Nigerian Democratic Congress is facing a fresh internal crisis because senior party officials in the Northwest reportedly are preparing to resign over disagreements surrounding the allocation of tickets for the 2027 general elections. The dispute is set to center on the party's vice presidential candidate, Rabiu Kwankwaso, and allegations by some party officials that he has exerted excessive influence over the selection of candidates, particularly in Kano State, his home state. Now, basically, from the People's Gazette, you know they're an investigative newspaper or online platform. Members of the NDC Executive Committee in the Northwest are considering leaving the party after months of efforts to reconcile competing political blocs allegedly failed. The party's presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, and the national chairman, Sireka Dixon, have reportedly been briefed on the development. Sources within the party claim that the planned resignations could begin as early as this week. So, among those reportedly considering their political future are the NDC Northwest Vice Chairman, Mohammed Rabiu Serina, and the Kano State Chairman, Husseini Isa Mariga. The aggrieved party officials reportedly accused Kwankwaso of refusing to allow other executives to recommend aspirants for elected positions ahead of the 2027 elections. Right now, Mr. Peter Obi is a closed-door meeting. He has been called to intervene in this matter. I think all of them have their own jurisdiction where they preside over issues. But right now, the presidential candidate of the NDC has been called in to resolve the Kano crisis. This is not the only crisis that are being talked about. Other executives made complaints about these kind of things. Even in the just concluded primaries, there are complaints, although they said a reconciliatory committee has been set up. If this is going on now, and they already have a court case appealing to no longer deregister their party or whatever, how do you think this affects the political influence or the upcoming elections for the NDC and the presidential candidate? Barrister Ezra, are you still with us? Okay, I think we've lost connection with Barrister Ezra Eluji, so I will try to contact him again to respond to that. Oh, okay, he's calling back. Barrister Ezra?
Yes, I heard your question.
Yeah, did you hear it?
I did. I heard everything.
Okay.
Before I respond to the NDC issue, let me make one or two closing comments on the South African issue.
Okay.
For every Nigerian who is in South Africa, I will urge them to find their way out of that murderous country for now. I mean, they should not rely on the embassy or whatsoever. And there is this advice is based on precedent. During the Liberian crisis, Nigerians crowded into the Nigerian embassy in Monrovia. And the ambassador to Monrovia was telling them that they should remain calm, everything will be taken care, they will be lifted. Only for the ambassador to leave Monrovia and come back to Abuja when the Taylor gang slaughtered Nigerians in the embassy. So if you are a Nigerian, you have a relative in South Africa, urge him to leave that country as soon as possible. He can always recover property later. And secondly, on the second issue, we also urge some of us have written already to the International Criminal Court to ensure that South Africa is removed from the countries which have petitioned Israel before the International Criminal Court with regards to the Gaza genocide. Because if the South African government is committing genocide against Africans in Africa, it has absolutely no business talking about genocide that was Israel committed against the Palestinians in Gaza. That is under the South African issue. Now, with regards to what you mentioned about the NDC, this government will find all kind of mechanisms, all scams, all schemes to ensure that the major opposition party against them, the NDC, crashes. And they will deploy funds This is a strategy. It's a criminal strategy, though. But that is what this Bola Tinubu regime will do. They will deploy funds. Even I wouldn't be surprised if even the closest friends of Mr. P2B turns against him, and it's expected because that is their stock in trade. They have amassed so much billions. They have borrowed billions from the World Bank and everything, and they will use this not for altruistic purposes, but to achieve political aims. And so what we are seeing in the NDC is just a manifestation of what the Bola Tinubu regime will do to opposition parties. But Nigerians must remain steadfast because the whole idea is this: once the fish rots from the top, if we're able to install an appropriate government at the very top, if we're able to remove this Bola Tinubu, this evil regime, all will become well.
Okay, but Barrister Eze-Luche, before we start blaming the APC about the situation in the NDC, before now, there were issues. Barrister, especially since they conducted their primaries, there were issues like this of impositions, real winners of the primaries being replaced by certain persons who have money or influence. I mean, these issues were coming up. In Kano State, we even heard there was an agreement of 60-40 between Kwankwaso and what's his name, the NDC. It also took the intervention of Mr. Peter Obi and Syria Kudison because Kwankwaso was selecting persons, and some persons were aggrieved as to what they thought was going to happen. They said Kwankwaso was going beyond the agreement achieved. So why is it surprising to you to hear what is going on in Kano State with the previous reports, and how is this the fault of the APC?
I did not say I'm surprised. It's expected. Because when you give parties such a short time to form, when you have destroyed the previous opposition element, you have created room for crisis. That is what the APC has done. So I didn't say I was surprised. I'm saying that worse will happen. Even if they overcome this crisis, more crisis will ensue. So the reality is that Nigerians should just be aware of this and then move on, because the whole idea is get the presidency right. Because sadly, we have a system whereby virtually all powers in the country are vested in the person of the president. So all we should be focused on is who is the presidential candidate, and if we think that person is the right person, that is how it should be. I mean, worse will happen. But we should not keep on debating about the internal politics of the NDC or the APC. The reason being that most of these people only move into those parties because of the person of PFIFC. And we have to be realistic. It's not as if they even have no manifesto. So we shouldn't be worried about the internal wranglings in this party. The reality is, yes, I mean, that's just the reality, the sad reality. But Nigerians, on the day of election for the presidential elections, we should be ready and ensure if this regime gets to that length, gets that far, and hopefully they won't get that far. But Nigerians should be ready to overcome whatever the excesses are. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Barrister